So the 2025 AFL draft is legitimately right around the corner. And I think as the days have gone on, we've been hearing a ton of new different rumors and news that we hadn't really heard before. You know, one of the more specific ones that has come out really recently does actually happen to do with the Richmond Football Club, because a certain player who we didn't actually know the Tigers were legitimately interested in has kind of come out and mentioned that he believes there's a massive chance to go to the Tigers and that the Tigers have been really interested in him. Because there is a little thing here, which this was covered by the Richmond Journey. It's on Instagram. Little post that says, "I'd probably say that Richmond has been my most interested. To be honest, since the start, they were the first to reach out." And this is, of course, being talked about by Jevan, Phillipou, of course, the brother of St Kilda football player Matisse Phillipou. So he continues to go on with it saying, "In a recent chat on SCN South Australia, The Run Home, Jevan Phillipou dropped a little nugget that all caught my attention." I'm pretty sure that meant to say that caught my attention, mentioning that Richmond has shown the most interest in him leading up to the draft. He goes on to say, "I've spoken to 16 out of 18 clubs. Only a couple haven't reached out. Gold Coast and Fremantle," Phillipou said. "I'd probably say Richmond have been the most interested, to be honest. Since the start, they were the first to reach out. They've done quite a few meetings as well as the combine, so I'd probably say them overall." Phillipou currently sits around the 18 to 23 range, but the Tigers' early and consistent interest makes things interesting. He's a mid-sized midfielder / forward with shades of Isaac Heaney and Christian Petrarca. Explosive from stoppages, dangerous overhead, and capable of hitting the scoreboard. It says, "Being a mid-sized midfielder, I've got a bit of an advantage athletically," he said. "It really helps that I can play some other positions. I model my game on those who can go forward, burst from stoppage, kick a big goal, and take a big mark." It then says, "I've got a feeling a pick swap might be on the cards." Now, look, are the Tigers going to take Jevan Phillipou with pick 3 or pick number 4 by the time the 2025 draft does come around in a couple of days? I would probably say no. I don't think the Tigers are going to be doing that, because after all, as mentioned, Phillipou's draft projection is going to be about pick 18 to 23. You know, that is also being said, that is where some teams like the Giants, who I think will be very interested in him, their picks will eventually probably slide down to, if they slide down, whatever the draft is going to look like. And we don't really know at this point. A lot of different things could be changing, like Harry Dean, the Carlton father-son, he's projected to go like pick 9 to 14. But there are some rumors even suggesting that a team like Richmond could, you know, put a bid on him at 3 or 4. Really crazy type of stuff. We really don't know what's going to happen in the draft. It is super unpredictable. And there is nothing here. There's nothing fully confirming that the Tigers won't take him at 3 and 4, other than where his projection currently sits. I mean, the reality is that we can say he's probably going to go like pick 18 or 23, but a team like Carlton, who are picking at like pick 9 and 11, they could really use a guy like Jevan Phillipou, and they could easily take him with that pick, meaning that a team like the Tigers won't have a chance to get him on 18 or 23 because he will already have been taken. So Richmond, I mean, they realistically could take him here, especially if they have been so interested in him for so long. But that's not what the news has been. It's not what we have heard. We've heard it's now 3 options. It's either going to be Roby, Taylor, or Grill. Those are the 3 options it does look like the Tigers are going with at the 2 picks. So I can't see that happening. But the world I see where the Tigers can get Jevan Phillipou is if they can potentially trade up. Now, at the time making this video, their other pick does happen to be pick 38. But with the Gold Coast Suns, Brisbane Lions, and a couple other teams losing a bunch of picks when they go on to match their guys in the first round, that kind of means that the Tigers' pick should be bumped up, and it's projected to be bumped up to about pick 31 to pick 33. So let's just say overall the Tigers are picking at 31. Phillipou is not going to be available, I don't believe, at pick 31. I think that would be pretty crazy if that were to happen. You know, I'll get into his skill set and what I like about him in a second, but I do think him being available at pick 31 would be a very odd circumstance, and he doesn't strike me as one of the guys who's going to fall down in this year's draft. So, the Tigers would probably have to trade up to probably about pick 15 or so to try and make this happen if they did really want him. And in most drafts, to move up to that, you're probably going to have to part ways with a first round pick. But in this year's draft, that's not the case at all. This is the weakest draft we've seen since like 2016. You know, it's been said that it is pretty weak and there are a lot of good players in it, but it can be a gamble on some of these guys. So you're not going to see a team parting away with a first round pick. The way I see it is, if a team is picking at like 15, they're not comfortable taking the pick in, and the Tigers are looking at Phillipou, they may offer up pick 38 and, of course, a future second for like pick 15 and maybe a future fourth. Because after all, again, a future second by Richmond, who will probably finish last or second last next year, where they're projected to, will be, you know, one of the earlier second round picks you can actually have. So it could essentially be like pick 38 this year, pick 22 next year, let's just say, for pick 15 this year in a week or so draft. That's pretty fair. A lot of people would agree to that, and that's probably what Richmond are going to offer. But it's also like, as mentioned, this is a weaker draft. Would a guy like Jevan Phillipou be rated this much in like next year's draft? It's really, really hard to say. So Richmond could offer up that second round pick, but their second round pick might come around next year and they might have a better player available next year. Plus they'd get to pick keep the pick 38 on top of that. So there's a risky fine line, a risky grey area that you're going to have to see how this, of course, does unfold with. Again, I don't think the Tigers are going to trade up unless the team is just completely panicking and doesn't want to be in the situation, doesn't have any players they like to pick, because that can happen. I mean, the reality is that I don't know if there will be really many trades early on in this year's draft. I feel like trades will only happen later in this year's draft when maybe a certain player falls through that teams may be interested in. For example, last year, Jasper Olga falling down to like pick 53. The Tigers really liked him. He was ranked, I think, like 34. They traded a future fourth to get that pick, selected Jasper Olga, and made that happen. So a situation like that could happen. The Tigers, it realistically could also be like, if Phillipou does fall down to like pick 22, maybe that's when the Tigers, decide to actually pull the trigger, rather than them, of course, trading for like a pick 15. I don't really know. It's what we're going to have to see on draft night. I am not really too confident the Tigers are going to make any of this happen. But Phillipou also does fit what the Tigers need. They desperately need burst from that midfield, which he can add. I think they also need an overhead marker and another guy who can rotate from forward to midfield, which Phillipou can also add as well. Like, when I look at the Tigers team, there really isn't much rotating from forward to midfield compared to the other teams. I think Sammy Lawler will, step into that role more next season. Taj Houghton hopefully as well, which could open up a Tim Torano, who's underrated, I feel like, as a forward, but he just doesn't get chucked there enough. You could see situations like that start to open up. But a guy like Phillipou, in his first year or two, I'd imagine they'd handle him like Matisse has been handled in the AFL. Play him as a forward, hopefully try and get him into some midfield time over the years, but, have it as a slow burner. And I think that's what teams could be doing here with Jevan Phillipou. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not completely confident Richmond are going to make this happen, but it is a weird one that we really don't know who the Tigers are still interested in. Like, we had never even heard about that until legitimately like today. So that is really cool to see. Of course, I'd very much love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest AFL content, all of the above. go and check out my gaming/movie channel, which will also be linked down below. And check out my Instagram, which will also be linked down below. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.